Hello and welcome to another episode of Pros Pondering Paint. We are on episode 6 of our Starting and Running a Successful Painting Business series. Today we get to talk about the fun stuff, bidding. We've gone through a whole bunch of other getting everything to go. Now you're on the site, you're ready to bid. Brandon, you do this almost every day. Where do we start?
Oh boy, now that right there is a loaded question. And the thing that I would first of all say is that people bid so differently. Everybody's got their own little take on it, right? Some people, they do it by the square foot. Other people, they might choose to do like a time and materials. Some people, it's a hybrid of both of them. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you what I do. And then of course you can modify it for however works for you. Okay, so when I go to a job here, obviously we start with a blank sheet of paper. Now, how I bid things, mentally, I'm thinking, I'm not necessarily trying to figure out how long it takes me. I need to know how long it takes the average painter because I'm not competing with myself. I'm competing with them. And because of that, how I always do it, I make myself just this little chart, this little graph, and it just makes things a whole lot easier for me. This is what I do. Whenever you look at my bidding process, you'll always see one of these graphs. Now, we're just going to take an interior, an average interior. You go in and you look at a bedroom. So you put bedroom 1, right? That's what you put. Sorry for the bad handwriting. There's a couple things that you need to think about when you're bidding. You have your prep, right? Your prep means that you're going to set up and take down, right? You have your labor to actually do the job. And then finally, you have your materials. So these are the big 3 things. And then, you have other, because sometimes stuff comes up in a particular project that you need to think about for whatever reason. So we're going to do walls only is what we're going to end up doing. So the average bedroom, and I'm just going to tell you this, the average painter, it takes them approximately 2 hours to prep. It takes them about 2 hours of labor, and it takes them approximately 2 gallons. I'm just saying this is generalization is what we're doing. Now, let's just say there's a crack in the wall. I need to do a little bit of a drywall repair. Yes, Chris.
When you say 2 gallons of material, are you saying it's like a standard 12 by 12 bedroom, a 10 by 10 bedroom? What are you kind of basing this number off of?
I'm basing this number off of 25 years of experience. I'm just talking like a normal bedroom, right? Which is typically a 10 by 12, 12 by 12. Most of the time, at least in Minnesota, people do not paint the closets. And the reason why is because the door is shut. Between having your boots on the floor and having your clothes hanging, you see about this much wall is what you end up seeing. So people, at least in Minnesota, do not paint closets typically. We're talking just essentially the 4 walls is what we're talking. Let's just say that there is a drywall repair. There might be a drywall repair. Sorry for the bad handwriting. I'll fix that for $75 is what I'll fix. So I got that. It takes 2 hours of prep, 3 hours of labor, and approximately 3 gallons. We go to a living room. The average living room takes about 3, and between 2 and 3, but we're going to do 3, and I'll explain that later. The average bathroom, depending on the size of the bathroom, it might take 1 or 2 hours of prep. It might take 1 hour or 2 hours of labor, depending on the size of the bathroom. So we'll just do 1. And a lot of times it'll take between 1 and 2 gallons, depending on the size of the bathroom. So if it's a powder room, obviously it's going to be smaller. You can see the formula here that we're setting up, right? And then it's very simple to be able to do the math. In the end, this is going to be 9 hours. This is going to be 9 hours. And this is going to be 9 gallons. Right there, you know exactly how long everything's going to take us to prep. You got about 1 man day in prep, 1 man day in labor, and 9 gallons of material. Now, you might notice that my material count is a little high. The average bedroom typically takes about 1.5 gallons, maybe 2.25 gallons. These are all things that you think about. The excess actually helps to offset cost for your tape, for your plastic, for other things. So that doesn't mean you're going to be buying this many gallons. It's just you need a way to be able to account for the other material costs in your particular estimate that you're going to be doing.
I agree with that. And then also any extra materials that you have, you get to leave there on site for the homeowner that they can then use for touch up, or if they add something, like you said, they typically don't do a closet, but say they were like, hey, we now want the closet, you then have that essentially built into the materials already to cover that extra.
Exactly. And that's why you always have to have this other column, because it tells you each room what needs to be done. Let's just say that there is a stain on the wall in the living room. It's not that big, but it's something that needs to be addressed. So you got that, you need to prime it. A lot of times I'll just carry a rattle can of primer and you can spray that on, but you need to account for that cost. That could be $25 to be able to rattle can that primer on for you. So you know what your hourly rate is, which I can't tell you what mine is because it doesn't matter where you live. So you know you have 18 hours and you have 9 gallons. Now, this particular job, I might start by buying 5 gallons. It won't take me 18 hours to do these things. It might take me 14 hours to do that. But all these numbers, I can assure you, is what it takes the average painter to be able to do. And that's who you're bidding against. You're bidding against the average painter. That's how I look at it. Other questions that I might ask is I might ask, how many total colors? Because each color costs you money. If you have, let's just say, a secondary color, and I have 3/4 of a gallon, I can't take that 3/4 of a gallon and I can't use it over into this other area. These are all different things that you need to consider. If you're going to be doing an exterior, you might do things just slightly different. The thing is, you got to pressure wash, right? Which is part of prep. You need to mask off. There's labor. There's material, right? Those are all the things. Then you look at the front of the house. Now, there might be 2 different colors, right? You might have a main color, and then you make another chart of the same thing for the trim color, right? Because each of these, if you got the front of the house, the left side, the back side, the right side, depending how you want to mix it up. See, this is a wonderful way for me to be able to keep track how long things should take me. I look at this bedroom, I know that it should take me a morning, right? If I do it quicker than a morning, I'm making money. If I'm doing it slower than a morning, then I am not as fast as the average painter for this normal size bedroom, a 10 by 12 or 10 by 10.
And the other nice thing about bidding, like you said, against the quote unquote average painter that's out there, if you get it done faster, then the homeowners like it when you get projects done quicker. If all of a sudden you say, all right, I've got a day of labor in here. Well, if you get it done in 7 hours instead of 9 hours, all you're going to do is make that homeowner happy that you wrapped up sooner. You don't have to change any of these numbers. You just say, hey, everything went faster. Or knowing like you, Brandon, I know you're a very fast painter. If something were to change or something were to come up, well, you've still got that extra time built in that you set, all right, it's going to be a 2-day job. Well, you would typically do this job in a day and a half, but if something were to come up, something that you didn't know as you're painting, or the homeowner changes something or something in your personal life comes up, then you've still got that half-day cushion essentially built in to cover you, and you still meet those existing homeowner expectations.
That's absolutely right. It's about covering yourself and covering things. Now, I will guarantee you, from 25 years of experience, the average bedroom takes a certain amount. Like, I can bid a job without typically looking at it, just because I've been in so many homes. Unless you have like a really intricate, specialized home, I've been in split levels. I've been in ramblers, typical 2-story home that has an entry that goes up a certain height. So it's like, if people tell me that, I already know within a pretty high degree of probability how much that's going to take me and how much it's going to cost. And it's because I've kept track of my numbers over 25 years. And I've also kept track of other painters. And I know exactly what it takes the average painter. Like this bedroom, I know I can get it done in probably 2.5, 3 hours. I just made money there. It takes about 1.5 gallons on the walls. Depending if the walls are textured, it might take more. Tweak it however you want to. So I gain 0.5 gallon there. So you can see each room, I'm competing against the other guy. So when we look at the material part, now we look at those gallons and we're like, you know what? That's obviously heavy-handed on the gallons. The reality is, yes, you're right. But I measure everything in paint. We think about it, there's going to be tape. There could potentially be plastic. There's going to be drop cloths. You have to maintain those drop cloths. You have to wash them. You have brushes. You have roller covers. Even just running around and doing estimates, that costs money. So again, I choose to measure everything in paint. So just because it says 10 gallons, it probably only takes 5 or 6, but that extra few gallons goes toward all those other things.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it, because it'd be really hard to have a column that just said, all right, one roller, one brush, you know, a third of a roll of tape. I don't know. I mean, you could. I know there's Excel spreadsheets out here, and you can really break all that deep down dive. But exactly, yeah, no, that makes sense, because you've got to cover all of those costs. And there again, the drop cloths, like you said, you got to maintain them. But once you buy a couple of drop cloths, you can use those if you maintain them for multiple years. I've heard some people say that they bought their original drop cloth 30 years ago and they're still using it, which that's really good. And for a $40 drop cloth, I'm impressed.
Absolutely. But, every so often you got to take that thing, probably not to your house, but to the laundromat, right? And because you need a big heavy duty washing machine and dryer. And then you have to sit there and you have to pay to be able to do that. So all that money needs to be made. Otherwise, people are like, oh, I may make X amount of dollars an hour. Well, no, you don't. You don't, because you have, all these other things that come into play, right? So I know you don't make that money unless you account for making that money.
As always, thank you for watching. Please join us next week for part 2 of episode 6, posted on Facebook and YouTube.